the Witch Doll by Mildred A. Wirt. Chapter 1. Tragedy for Nellie. Just one more dive, pleaded Penny, climbing nimbly up the rungs of the bright brass ladder. Then make it snappy, commanded Louise Seidel, a dark-haired girl in a blue bathing suit. She sighed and sank down on the edge of the tiled swimming pool. We have to dress and get out of here sometime, you know. I promised Mother I'd stop at the doll shop. Oh, we still have lots of time. Penny glanced carelessly at the big wall clock as she mounted the ladder to the diving board, raising her eyes to the slim figure above her. Louise felt a warm wave of admiration for her chum. Penelope Parker, Penny to all of her friends, had that indefinable thing called personality. Her deep blue eyes, golden ringlets, clear skin gave one an impression of beauty, and besides, she had sparkle and vivacity. Louise reflected that nearly all the world's prize packages had been dropped on Penny's casual little shoulders. "Well, what will it be this time?" she called. "Better make it good." Penny didn't answer. With an easy grace, she moved out on the board and sprang lightly into the air. Tucking into a tight ball, she rolled swiftly forward, opened again into a straight line, and entered the water with scarcely a ripple. She pushed up hard from the bottom of the pool. Her head and shoulders shot high above the water. Penny grinned, and too lazy to swim, lunged for the side of the tank. "Were my toes pointed nice and neat?" "Your toes?" Louise exclaimed indignantly. "When you try that somersault dive, you're just plain lucky your neck isn't broken. Come on, we're going home." She seized her chum by the arm, dragging her bodily from the pool. "I'll beat you dressing," challenged Penny, making a dash for the shower. Long before Louise was ready, she had donned her white sports dress, red sandals, and busied herself untangling wet ringlets under the hot air dryer. But at last both girls considered themselves presentable. They tossed their wet bathing suits into the laundry basket and went out into the street. "I promised Mother I'd buy a doll for a poor child," Louise remarked as they walked along. "I thought I'd get it at Nellie Marble's shop, but you needn't go unless you'd like to." "Oh, I have lots of time," said Penny. "Anyway, I'd rather enjoy talking with Nellie again. I haven't seen her since she graduated." Both Penny and Louise were sophomores at Riverview High. Nellie Marble had attended the school only 2 years before, and the girls had never known her well. "Mother says Nellie has had a hard time of it until lately," Louise commented. She had courage going into business for herself. "Yes, her doll shop is paying well now, I guess, but she's had a long struggle building up her trade. She deserves to succeed. She makes the cutest dolls in town." The Marble Doll Shop was located at the very outskirts of Riverview, not far from the Big Bear River. After a long walk, the girls came to a district where the business houses were run down and in need of paint. A swinging sign drew their attention to the doll shop, a clean white building which stood in sharp contrast to its neighbors. Louise opened the door. A musical bell jingled pleasantly as they went inside. "Why, look at this," Penny cried, stopping short. Instead of the neat, tidily arranged showroom which they had expected to find, everything was in disorder. Dolls were laying helter-skelter on the floor, many of their heads crushed. A glass counter had been broken. While the girls were standing, they heard footsteps. Nellie Marble, a thin, tired-looking girl of 22, came to the doorway from the workroom at the rear of the shop. Her eyes were red from weeping. "Oh," she said in a listless voice, "I thought you might be the police." "The police?" echoed Penny. "Why, Nellie, what happened here?" "You may see for yourself." Nellie's gaze swept the disordered room. "The place was like this when I unlocked this morning. Some vandal broke in and smashed my most expensive china dolls." "Why, I never heard of such a mean trick!" exclaimed Louise. "You notified the police, Nellie?" "Yes, I telephoned right away. They instructed me to leave everything as it was and they'd send a man out to look the place over. So far no one has come. I suppose the police figure a few broken dolls aren't of great importance." Nellie spoke, In a deep bitterness, sinking down in a chair, she began to cry. "I know just how you feel," said Penny, slipping an arm around the girl's shoulder. "I'd rage like a jungle lion if anyone did such a thing to me." "Do you have any idea who broke in?" "Not the slightest. I locked up last night as usual. Both the rear and the front doors were still fastened this morning." "Did you examine the windows?" "They were all locked except one at the back of the building. It has a broken catch. Perhaps the intruders entered the shop that way." "It's possible," Nellie admitted, "but the sill was still dusty this morning." She arose and, moving over to the counter, selected a large doll which had been costumed as a Dutch girl. Its fragile head had been crushed. "See this? An imported doll, too. I shall never be able to replace the head, for the importer has gone out of business. This doll was worth $20. "How high do you figure your loss?" Penny asked. "Over $100. Oh, I'm so discouraged. I feel like giving up my shop." "Don't talk such nonsense," Penny chided. "Of course you'll clean up this mess and go on the same as before. This is just a little setback." "I'm not so sure," Nellie said slowly. "Somehow I feel unlucky, as if this were just the beginning." "The beginning of what, Nellie?" "I don't know. Something sinister and, well, I can't explain it. It's just a feeling." "That's exactly what it is," said Louise. "Just a feeling, Nellie. You're allowing yourself to get morbid." "Perhaps. But I've worked 12 hours a day to make this little shop a success, and now my hopes are shattered." "Why take such a serious outlook?" Louise asked. "You surely don't expect a thing like this to happen again." "It could very easily. I have a feeling." "Oh, you're positively depressed," Louise cut in lightly. "I imagine all this damage was done by a group of hoodlums. The police may be able to trace the person and make them pay." "Nellie," said Penny in a quiet voice, "has anyone approached you? I mean, have you been asked to pay money for protection?" Nellie shook her head. "No, this all came like a bolt from out of the blue. My business has been especially good lately. In fact, just 2 days ago, I had the chance to sell out. I almost wish I had taken it." "Was the offer a good one?" inquired Penny. "Yes, fairly tempting. This old lady, Mrs. Farmer, said she would pay me $1,000 for my stock of dolls. That would be a fair price." "Did you decide to take it?" "Well, no. I figured I could make more by keeping on here. I've built up a large number of customers, and I do love making dolls." "If you feel that way, I'd not sell to anyone," declared Penny. "Within a few months' time, this shop should be worth far more than $1,000. Yes, if vandals don't break in again." Nellie continued to look unhappy. Her hands fluttered nervously as she reached to put away the broken Dutch doll. "I do wish the police would hurry," she said. The doorbell jingled, and the 3 girls turned to see who had entered. An old woman with a dark cape over her hunched shoulders, her misshapen felt hat pulled over her wrinkled face, came softly into the room. "There is Mrs. Farmer now," Nellie whispered by way of information. The old woman glanced sharply at the girls and then gazed over the shop room floor. Dear me," she said in a purring voice. "What have we here?" She stooped painfully and picked up one of the smashed dolls, cuddling it as if it were human. "The poor little thing! Who crushed its pretty head?" "I wish I knew, Mrs. Farmer," replied Nellie. "Someone broke in last night and wrecked the place." "Tish, tish! You don't say! Such a vicious thing to do! I'm so sorry for you, my child." "I imagine you must feel a bit relieved that you didn't sell the shop to you," commented Nellie. A cunning look came into the eyes of the old Mrs. Farmer, and so it seemed to Penny. The expression changed into a twinkle. "No, child. It would take many broken dolls to frighten an old woman like me. That's why I dropped in again. I have been thinking, if you sell your shop to me, I might find a place for you as my assistant. $1,000 is a large sum of money, my child, and there would be a small weekly salary as well. That would appeal to you, perhaps? I don't know, Mrs. Farmer. I must take time to think things over. Yes, yes, to be sure, the old woman nodded. Of course, you would wish to think it over, but don't take too long. Not too long, my child. So many things could happen. I'll try to decide within the next few days, Nellie promised. The old lady bowed to each girl in turn, and murmuring a few sympathetic words about the broken dolls, retreated out the door. What do you think of her? Asked Nellie when Mrs. Farmer could be seen crossing the street. She struck me as a rather silly, simple-minded old lady, declared Louise. Her offer seemed fair enough, said Penny slowly, but she was so pleasant that she was unpleasant, if you know what I mean. I do, said Nellie. She always gives me a very uncomfortable feeling. That's one reason why I've not wished to sell out to her. I'd not care to work as her assistant, and I'm sure she'd never make a success of the place. If I were you, I'd be cautious in my dealings, warned Penny. I have a sneaking suspicion Mrs. Farmer may not be as simple-minded as she would have one believe. It was well past the luncheon hour, so the girls quickly selected a Parisian doll from Nellie's undamaged stock. I'll give this doll to you, the girl declared. Indeed, you'll do no such thing, Louise protested vigorously. She forced the bill into Nellie's hand. Promising that they would try to drop around the following day, Louise and Penny left the shop with their purchase. Directly across the street they observed Mrs. Farmer. The woman had paused and was peering into the display window of the grocery store. There's something strange about that old lady, Penny said in an undertone. Did you notice her eyes, Louise? She wore glasses, didn't she? I don't mean that. Her eyes had such a wicked, evil expression. I wish Nellie had never met her. Mrs. Farmer seemed just like a rather silly old lady to me. And what was it she said? Penny went on musingly. Don't take too long to think it over. So many things could happen. Oh, you're giving her words a special interpretation of your own, laughed Louise. Come along. I was due home an hour ago. Taking Penny firmly by the arm, she pulled on her on down the narrow street. Do, 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 do.